The British Constitution. My favourite topic of conversation. A constitution is a framework from which a country is governed, and the British one is pretty unusual as it's uncodified, i.e. not all written in one document, unlike the USA's, for example. This is primarily because the UK hasn't gone through a revolution or anything, so it hasn't had to start from scratch. The British Constitution is based on four main principles. First is parliamentary sovereignty. This is the idea that Parliament is the absolute legal authority, the ultimate rulemaker. It means Parliament can legislate on whatever they want. No higher authority can overturn it. It's important to note they can't bind their successors. Simply put, the next government could undo all their changes if they see fit. A.V. Dicey said it was one of the twin pillars of the Constitution, alongside the next principle, rule of law. This means that law should apply equally to all, so no one is above the law. This means power is used responsibly. The Magna Carta is the first document to really put this all out there. It's essential in a liberal democracy like the UK. Oh, that's a democracy that ensures all people's rights are protected. The third principle is unitary state. This means that power is highly centralised and located at Westminster. It means that all parts of the state are governed in the same way. Subnational institutions, like the Welsh Assembly, for example, don't have these autonomous powers. Westminster is a top dog, although devolution in places like Scotland seems to make this less of a thing in practice. The opposite of a unitary state would be a federal state, like America, where power is shared between national, like Congress, and regional bodies, like the states. Lastly, is a parliamentary government in a constitutional monarchy. Simply put, this means government ministers are politically and legally accountable to the Crown. Accountable means taking responsibility. The monarch retained the formal powers, but eventually the Commons became the dominant legislature. Let's split it down. Parliamentary government refers to the structure we have called fusion of power between the executive and the legislature. It means they overlap. You'll probably realise what I mean when I tell you that the executive is the government, the PM and their cabinet of ministers, and the legislature is all of Parliament, which includes the government. The government governs in and through Parliament. Constitutional monarchy is to do with the idea that the monarchy has lost their absolute power, but it's still constitutionally important. They have the right to be informed and consulted and stuff, and, it's nice to have them there. The Constitution is made up of four main sources. Firstly, Statute Law, which is the law known as Acts of Parliament, It's a codified bit of the Constitution. Secondly is common law, which is the law that comes from decisions made in court and tradition. It can be seen as judge-made law, using something called precedent, the idea that a judge could look back at previous cases to decide what to do in their current case. Thirdly, there's authoritative works, which are there for interpretation. They aren't legally enforceable, but there to stop any confusion to do with the Constitution. And fourth are conventions, which are the established norms of political behaviour, rooted in past experience instead of law. They make politics workable. A few examples would be the royal assent, or that the government would resign if they're defeated on a major bill. There's also EU law, which acquires a higher status than the UK statute law, which is why everyone kept stressing about getting parliamentary sovereignty back if we leave the EU. But you don't have to worry about that source too much due to the whole Brexit thing. So there you have it, the British Constitution in under 4 minutes.